Hey everyone, welcome to Group Text. Now, I can speak very intelligently about mother-daughter combos, but not so much about father-daughter duos. So today I'm going to be asking a lot of questions of my guest. I'm thrilled to have Mayan Lopez with me in person, who, along with her father, George Lopez, stars in the hit comedy series Lopez versus Lopez. That's not a creative title, but it's self-explanatory, which starts its second season on Tuesday, April 2nd at 7 Central on NBC and streaming the next day on Peacock. Mayan, we were already talking about this. We're like kindred spirits.
We are. It's like we're going to be talking to each other. Are we going to trauma bond, Melissa?
I was going to say, we're both processing our same childhood trauma by making the incredibly masochistic decision to work with our parents, who both happen to be stand-up comedians by heart. And if no one has ever lived with a stand-up comedian who is really also a writer, you don't know how weird it is. They are. Now, I have to ask this, and I never ask this. What sign is your father? Because my mom was a Gemini, so you're dealing with a comedian, writer, actor who naturally has a split personality.
Yes, my father is a Taurus, so that's stubbornness and strong in his ways, and that is how things are, is, again, on brand, and, for what we create. I think in his comedy is a very...
Yes. Look at us. We're our own
the Bull.
We're a support group.
Yeah. What is your sign?
I am the day it changes from Capricorn to Aquarius. So whatever magazine I'm reading, I have to find the date to figure out which way they're doing it.
Yeah, I'm an Aries, so it's...
Yeah, I don't know what any of it means.
I was like, oh no. I thought we were going to be like, oh, it's Aries.
I don't know what any of it means, other than I know that Geminis are nuts, except apparently when everything's in retrograde, because for whatever reason, they then become very rational and normal. Just by an unscientific
I'll have to go back and see what my mom was like that, and if it coincided with a retro.
We're always like, why is she so normal and rational? Oh, Mercury's in retrograde. For those who haven't seen the show, what is Lopez versus Lopez about?
So Lopez versus Lopez is loosely based on my dad, George Lopez, and I's real life relationship. It is about his daughter, Mayan, and her father, George, who were estranged for about 10 years. And through life circumstances, they choose to reconnect with one another. George is, in the first season, is kind of down on his luck and chooses to live with Mayan, and it's all we discuss themes of reconnection, estrangement, alcoholism, and just divorce as well. I have the mother character. I'm a teen mom, a TV mom, and I have a boyfriend, and it's all about the family dynamics and kind of learning to heal and all the love and in between of just trying to reconnect with a parent or a loved one.
We're going to talk about the reconnection in a minute, because I went through something very similar in my family. But I got to say, so the show came about because of a TikTok video. I mean, How much more current way of selling a show? So what was the video, and how did it spin out to suddenly be a second season network show?
Yes, it's the first television show to ever be conceived from a TikTok, which is just crazy. I was just moved home from Chicago. I was studying comedy writing and performance and improv at Second City, and COVID happened. And along with the video that is the one that inspired the television show, I was making a series called Why Do My Divorced Parents Still Act Like They're Married? My dad is immunocompromised. My mom gave my dad a kidney over 17 years ago, which alludes to the TikTok that I made. But it was about family dynamics and, I would just point at the camera at them and just film because they, even before they were divorced, they were together for 20 years. So it'd be, them, my mom would try to sit on his lap. He goes, go sit over there. Or she'd be singing to him. But the one that inspired the the show um was, it's very interesting because I feel like my dad got canceled before cancel culture as it is today. And so
Yes.
things like divorce and things like that are already difficult, but in the public eye make it a million times worse, and everyone has an opinion. My father was unfaithful to my mom for many years. And with my mom giving my dad a kidney, there was a whole thing of, oh, she should get the kidney back in the divorce when it was a gift. She would do it again. She wanted to save, the father of her child and her husband. I digress. But someone made a TikTok, which I usually try to ignore those things, but I got tagged in this thousands of times. And it was someone who made, it was through a green screen of, he was pretending to be in a hospital bed. He's like, George Lopez is sick in a hospital bed. His wife gives him a kidney. He gets saved. What does he do? Cheats on her, all of that stuff. And for some reason, this one got to me. And because I kind of kept quiet about the truth of it when really my mom divorced him. My dad couldn't really handle it, but that was what was out publicly, which just made him look worse. But so I was like, you know what? I'm going to say something about it. And who's going to see it? So I thought, I'm a comedian. I'll work upside down on a wall. That will get people's attention. I don't know how
Right.
good I am at it, but I showed family pictures and I said, that's not true. And then in text, I said, she still gets hella money in alimony. She's better off. And our showrunner and co-creator, Debbie Wolf, was on TikTok at 2 a.m. and saw that TikTok and thought, oh, this is hilarious. And she has a very similar story to myself, and saw the other TikTok that I had made with my parents. And it was kind of serendipitous because she was working on The Conners with Bruce Helford, who co-created George Lopez. So it happened to just be like weirdly all connected. And we all got in a meeting with one another. And my dad and I would have never thought to work with each other ever. We weren't even really speaking at the time, which is why I was making these kind of TikToks in order to connect with people with similar issues and also to kind of channel my pain in some way. And we all got in a room together. We pitched it to NBC, and now we are currently filming and waiting to premiere our second season. It's been a wild, now 4 years since that. It took a couple of years with COVID and everything, but it's really incredible what this show has become and how it's affected people.
So I wasn't aware that you were in Second City.
Mm-hmm.
That's some serious, that's a big line on a comic writer, actress's resume. How did you, because you were raised in LA?
Yes, born and raised.
Born and raised. How did you end up, and Chicago's the important Second City. That was the original.
Yes.
How did you end up at Second City? Because it's never a straight line.
No, it's very interesting because my mom was a casting director and my dad was still doing stand up. And I was around 5 years old when we got George Lopez and George Lopez started. But I was, as a little kid, I was like, you probably get it too, of, things would just come out of me, and I kind of inherited something would come, the quickness and the wit that my father and my mother also have, but my dad, of, something would just come out, and in school I would get in trouble, and I had to create a filter. And one time my mom picked me up from school and she was like, Mayan, what you said was mean. And I go, mean, but funny. And that was, I always think about that. And so my mom it closed down in Hollywood, but I used to go to Second City camp during the summer. And
Really?
that was something that I'd done from 8 years old. And I loved watching Lucille Ball and SNL. Like, that is what I wanted to train for, because I've always wanted to make people laugh. That is something that always made me so happy, but I was afraid and didn't really want to do it through stand up because of the comparisons that would come from your parent, you're one of the only people that could get
Yeah, no,
that
everyone's
up.
like,
It's so
yeah.
incredibly intimidating. And I feel through improv and sketch is not only something that I was drawn to already, but it was a way that I could carve my own identity in comedy and my own identity within myself. And my dad never did sketch or improv. And I also loved being able to go away, not only to the mecca of comedy and sketch in Chicago, but also away from LA, where people in the industry, I grew up around them, and I didn't want them to see my shows when I was just learning. And who knows, you in the audience, and you don't want that to affect anything. And I am so grateful for that time in Chicago because I went so immersed in it, and I was able to make a lot of mistakes and grow and learn and really become my own person in my time there. And I was there for 4 years, and it was really wonderful. And it's really, those skills are helping me now in a sitcom, because I've never done a sitcom, let alone a season of television ever before this
Which,
coming.
you bring up so many things. Like people always say to me, "You're so funny. You ever thought about doing stand up?" I'm like, that would maybe be the worst possible thing I could choose to do. That's number
Yeah,
one.
absolutely.
Number two, that you brought up was getting out of LA. Now, did your parents want you to do that, or was it a choice? Because my parents said, "You're out of here. You're going to the East Coast.
Oh,
You're
interesting.
gonna
Yeah.
go find out what life is like, not in Hollywood." We moved here when I was 3, from New York. So I don't have any real memories of living in New York. They're like,
Right.
you need to get out of this environment. You need to figure out what you want to do and why you want to do it.
Yeah,
And they pushed me out the door, basically.
yeah, basically the same thing, very similar. I think I feel very fortunate that growing up here, I could go back, but I think the time away was so valuable. And both of my parents were go, like, exactly, go explore, learn what the world is outside. Because when you get out of here, I know some kids that I grew up with that never leave LA, and it's like, I call them, they haven't popped the bubble. It's like you have to pop the bubble and realize, living somewhere else, how people navigate things, and it gives you a different perspective of the world. I'm so grateful for that time. Even I went to college, but I dropped out after two
Where?
years. I went to Columbia College, Chicago, and I was studying comedy writing and performance. But really, it was a new, because it was the only, at that time, the only comedy major, and a
Right.
lot of the teachers were from Second City, so it
Yeah.
seemed like a no-brainer. But as I started going through it, just the program at this time didn't seem like what was best for me. Also, I tried to go under, which I bet you get with the last name,
Mm-hmm.
the issue with the last name. I tried to go under my mom's maiden name so that I could kind of try to be, because that's been a whole thing throughout my life of,
I get it.
people, sometimes go up to you and you think they're your friend, and then they're like, oh yeah, we only wanted to talk to you because your parent is famous, or
Yeah.
we just wanted to be around someone famous. And it's like, I get trust issues from my dad, but I also get trust issues from people just using you. And I kind of got blacklisted because people were, were saying, well, you're already going to make it. And I was like, well, that's not a guarantee, first of all. And I already know, like, look, I have to work hard. I work hard. I love to work hard, but I have to work harder to not be or turn out like everyone else expects me to be.
Oh my God, you sound like so much like me, because what I always say to people is, it might get you in the door, but
But it can
it's
close.
not get, by the way, but it's
Hmm.
not going to help you keep the job.
No.
But it's true. There's so many preconceived notions that I always feel like, and I'm sure I'm saying we now,
Yeah.
you have to work harder and be better to even get to the starting line to make it an
Yes.
equal race, because half the time you're fighting against preconceived notions. I have people come up to me and say all the time, "Oh my God, you're so nice. I never would have thought you were nice."
Yes.
Why?
All the
Because
time.
I have an opinion on TV. And I just want to roll back for one sec, because you talked
Hmm.
about your mom saying that was mean. I had to teach my son, because he's got it now from 2 generations, what we
Mm-hmm.
used to call age-appropriate sarcasm.
Oh,
Because you might say it at home and it's funny, but I would say to him, funny, yes.
yes.
Age appropriate, no. So that was a big thing.
Age-appropriate
Age
sarcasm.
appropriate sarcasm.
I am going to write that down for when I have children, because
Yes.
that is
But
so
it's,
true.
I mean, it's such, what we have had is such a unique experience. It's really hard for people to get their head around. I get this all the time and it makes me crazy.
Mm-hmm.
And the same for you, because they only know your parents' public persona. They would say, was she critical of you at home? Well, like any other mother, but more, they go, was she funny at home? And I used to say, it was hilarious when I was getting grounded. You know what I mean?
Yes.
Do you get that too?
I get that all the time. Or, oh, you're so lucky that your dad is George Lopez. Like, oh, exactly. If I had $1 for every time someone asked me, is he just as funny as at home? And I'd be like, oh, yes, he is, just exactly what you see. But it's a very fine line, because I mean, stand-up comedians in their own unique way have, you know, darkness, but like beneath them, and it's all anything for an opportunity. Doesn't care who you are. Their own children, they will take you as bait to be a joke. And I think, as we have thicker skin than I would say the majority of people in the world. And I think when people publicly, it's hard even now, especially with Lopez versus Lopez. It's a weird thing of, I don't want to destroy people's perception or hurt people's perception of someone that they admire so much or is such a fan of. Um, but also, it was like, they don't really know how difficult it can be. And yes, I love my father's career, and I think he's incredible, and am I proud to be his daughter? Absolutely. To come from that sort of greatness. But at the same time, it's layered, and it's really difficult to, have a parent that, sometimes the only way that I could communicate my distaste to my dad was through jokes.
Yeah.
And if I landed a really good one on him, I would be able to make him stop, ragging on me. And
Well,
that's
also,
and
because at that point they become strangely proud of you, which is a
yes.
whole issue for therapy.
Mm-hmm.
But I was going to say, my default lines, and you can feel free to use them, is, yes, it was always hilarious when I was getting grounded. And let me tell you, it's a knee slapper when they take away the car keys.
That's a good one.
Mm-hmm. Because it makes people realize, like, come on.
Or I'd be like, my follow would be like, well, my dad wasn't really around because when I learned how to drive. So
yeah. Yeah, mine was always, it was hilarious when I was getting grounded.
and I'd be like, oh yeah.
Yeah. But you brought up the estrangement. And I don't know if you're aware of this. My mother and I went through a big period of estrangement right after my father died. And, we can talk about a whole suicide thing, but that's not what we're here to talk about.
Right.
It was incredibly difficult. And it got to the point that the only time we would speak was in therapy. And she was going back and forth from Los Angeles to New York, and I was at school in Philadelphia. So it became incredibly complicated. And it takes a lot of work to get back. And you have to come back on different terms.
Yeah.
Which, by the way, was fine in the beginning and then completely devolved into the complete mother-daughter relationship, which is complicated at best. And I was lucky because I learned, as my therapist said, you're not going to change her. All you can change is your reaction to her.
Yes.
That was a big one. And also, they'll always go for the joke, and the best way to get back at them is to zing them back. What happened? I mean, I'm assuming it's because of the divorce. How did you decide to come back together and then jump into the work situation, which I did too? You would think I'd be a cautionary tale for you.
It's very interesting because when my parents divorced, I really stopped being a kid at 14, and I had to grow up very quickly. the scandal. And also, I just want to preface this, everybody. Whatever I'm going to say to my dad is not something that, one, he would agree with, and he's putting this all out there publicly that he would know, but this is also not anything that I wouldn't say to his face either.
Of
Like
course. This is not
he knows.
This is not a private forum.
No. But with it was just the lying, and it was so public, and I had absolutely no idea. It came out in the National Enquirer. I still will never read that article, but it was also really difficult through the stand-up part of it as well, because my mom, it's with the age of the internet, it's so different. My mom would just send me TMZ articles, and I'd just be like, oh, I would like cringe, be like, oh God, what did he do now? And when we weren't speaking, I think it got to the point where after the divorce, when I tried to have therapy sessions, I couldn't go into the room without my entire body like shaking, and because he abandoned me. And that's like, even my therapist, like, he abandoned me completely after the divorce. He did not talk to me. I was left with my mother, who understandably was going through the loss of her career, her husband. It was, I've blacked out a lot of it. And, but then I would see things through stand up. I remember still to this day, verbatim, he was in Canada and he was talking about drinking and alcoholism and his drinking. And he was saying, I've been drinking since I was 15, and, alcohol is going to kill me, but isn't that what it's supposed to do? And, you hear some of those things as a kid, and you hear sort of like you with the stand up, and you don't know what's a joke and what's real when your parent puts it out there. And I had to just stop talking with him, because he would give me everything except communication. He used to send flowers to my house every single Friday with a card. And I at one point had to tell him to stop sending the flowers, because I didn't want flowers. I wanted my father. And it was a painful reminder every week that he would not talk to me or message me, but he would send me that. And that was all he could get. And that was not enough for me. And I think even during this filming, like as we were beginning, we were talking, I say estrangement, for the longest amount of estrangement that we'd gone to, we hadn't talked for about maybe 4.5 years. But then there would be times where I would a long time. Because at one point I had to think of myself, and if this person is not adding or creating joy to my life and is only draining me, I have to look out for myself. And I would always be afraid that he would leave again, and it was just not conducive for me. And then I've been to some places for mental health, like some patient places. Mm-hmm. And I was actually in one when we kind of started talking to again, and that kind of helped, facilitate things. But I mean, I've been in family therapy sessions where we told each other F you, and I was 17 years old, and it's a lot of things. And I think but everything, I truly believe in timing, because with the first season of this show, the second season, watch halfway through, ladies and gentlemen, pay attention halfway through, because that's when I'm really starting to kind of cut loose. But no one really prepares you for playing a character that is a version of yourself, which you still want to bring your heart and what you've gone through, but also you have to protect yourself, because I'm putting trauma and real things that I have gone through with the person that traumatized me as my scene partner, and putting it out there for millions of people. There would be conversations that Mayan, I call her Schmayan, sitcom Mayan, or it just gets too confusing. Mm-hmm. But, we would have conversations that sometimes my character would have one with him. And I wanted to have that in real life. Mm-hmm. And I could see, oh, his character is having this conversation. But it's me he's having it with. So it'll be able to stick.
And then, by the way, make it funny.
Exactly. And wrap it up in a little bow and all of that. And
so, boy, I have to ask you, because people ask me all the time. I don't want to cut you off, but I have to ask you. Mm-hmm. So here you have this big estrangement. You're going through a lot. This is not a little estrangement. This is a big estrangement. And suddenly you have to make the decision to work together, which is a loaded situation to start with. You're the producer.
Yes.
And one of the stars. He's the EP and one of the stars. Technically, a lot of executive producers are just executive producers in name only. And I have gone through this one because I was an actual producer of the show.
Yes.
How do you tell them he's wrong? Who wins these creative fights? Because my mom and I, it took us a while to find a balance where
yes,
I wouldn't question what she was seeing comedically, but then she wasn't allowed to question what I was seeing in the bigger picture of the content of the show.
Right. Because we both co-created the show. The first season I was a producer, and now this season I am a co-executive producer. So I think it's a very interesting thing with that. I think with him, one thing that I think we've been able to, or I think even just the years of therapy, I'm able to kind of be very good at talking with myself. But I think if I always stick with what's best for our characters and the comedy of plot points, or like what would they be feeling or thinking of story overall, I can pitch things to him. I think sometimes I will, like, I can picking your battles. I will go up and I will, it'll be like, I will fight for something that I believe in, but there's other producers. And if I get outranked, I'll put my hands up and I'll be like, okay, that's completely, fine. Also, sometimes I'll just do it and ask forgiveness and not permission. Or if there's sometimes a joke that I think could be better, I'll do it and I'll just say, you know what, hey, I'm going to do this for a take, and just say it. And then because I'll be like, I know I can do it where it can work.
Right.
But I think with him creatively, he'll back off. I think sometimes I'll try to make it their idea.
Well, do you want to know the top secret trick?
Yes.
Give them something that you don't like, that they're not going to like, so it gives them something to cut, and then say, how about this, and put yours in, because they feel like they've got. I'm telling you, it's complete and total reverse psychology. 100%. You are amazing. Mayan Lopez versus Lopez, season 2 starts April 2nd, 8/7 Central on NBC. Next day on Peacock. I wish we had more time. We're going to have to do
I wish we had more time too. I thought we had an hour. I didn't realize it was 30 minutes.
They just said to me, they came in and threw a sign at me.
What?
So we have to do another interview. Mayan, you are, I have found my sister.
Yes.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.